Dongles.
Dongles? Did you say dongles? Are we hunting for dongles? Are we being hunted by dongles?
Frank, let's just talk about our Mac Minis again.
This is your favorite topic, James. James's topic. Mine used to be ML. Now I'm over it. It's Mac Minis, but I'm wondering how long until we're over it. But for now, we're not. We're not. Hey, we're gonna talk.
We're gonna talk about it. We got a few topics tonight. That's for sure. I think before we get to dongle talk, I do want to talk about AI, and I think, Frank,
of course,
I do think that perhaps it's gone a little mainstream and like mass are starting to adopt AI. Because here's what happened: there was some AI in The Bachelor.
Oh, generate for me the perfect Valentine's Day poem.
Kind of, but even better. So one of the contestants, this is night one, she came prepared with a PowerPoint about her life with The Bachelor. And she used AI to generate all these images of them together, like through their life.
Images.
Yeah.
With people?
With them, yeah, it like looked like that.
I believe that's illegal in some countries.
I don't know. I mean, she put it together. I mean, they were more cartoonish. You know what I mean? So it wasn't photorealistic. It was more cartoon driven, but it had like the stages. And then we were listening to a podcast, and one of the hosts was talking about Midjourney as they were recapping this. And I was like, okay, like they didn't just go DALL-E or just do AI in general. Yeah. They're like deep down the Midjourney train, which like surprised me because I haven't heard a lot of people talking about DALL-E or Midjourney in a while. But like, I was like, okay, people be knowing about AI.
So is Midjourney still like the Discord interface, or do they finally have a web interface?
I don't know. I feel like that's when I stopped caring about it.
Non-tech people are using Discord. I'm just like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I use some Bing image creations, which is all DALL-E 3 and stuff like that. But actually, I haven't heard. I mean, everyone's onto video, right? It's like video, generation. But
no. In our tech bubble, I think we're onto video, but I think like it takes time for this stuff to diffuse out there, and I think only now, like what you hear most commonly, the way I know it's in the mainstream is everyone says like, oh, it's probably an AI fake. So instead of saying that's probably a Photoshop, now everything you don't like, anything you disagree with, it's AI.
That's AI is the new, that's Photoshopped. Yeah.
So that's how I think it's mainstream.
It's true. Like we'll be on like Instagram. I'm not on social media that much, but like we were at the airport last night and how there was just scrolling through the gram and, often we'll get into like cattle dog, like sort of like the algorithm where it's all just cattle dog, like images and videos and stuff.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm old. I'm a normie. What? Huh?
Oh, okay. What is it? In Instagram, there's an app where people share photos, but actually it's pretty much just TikTok now. So it's just videos that automatically like scroll and go.
Sure.
Okay. That's what it is. So how it works though, is like the algo is like when you're looking at a video or a photo, if you're on it for longer, it'll serve you up more of that, right?
Crazy.
And you can like search cattle dog and then it'll like be like, oh, I'm going to click on a cattle dog. And then you get into the algorithm, but you can also like get out of the algorithm because it'll be like, hey, like, did you want to see like this person sledding down a hill and then running into a snow pile? And then if you like watch it for too long, it's like, hey, you love winter. Now here's a bunch of, but then it'll get back. It'll like 360.
Oh boy.
But as you're scrolling through on occasion, there'll be like photos of a cute cattle dog and be like, that one's AI. And I was like, I don't know if that one's AI. So it's a new game. Like, is that AI or not? And then sometimes there'll be a clip. There'll be like a little clip that's like a few seconds. That could be AI too. Just saying.
Yeah, it's expensive to generate those videos right now. Does anyone just admit to AI? They're like, here's the cutest AI. What are you saying anyway? Cattle dog?
Cattle dog. Australian cattle dog. A blue healer cattle like dog. Bluey.
Blue healer. Oh,
blue healer.
Like Bluey. Dog. Got it.
Like Bluey. Get it? Bluey.
So does anyone admit to AI or no one's?
I don't
so
think
it's all just supposition.
Here's the thing too. is since there's no really good way for, I mean, I'm sure there's a way for you to market with AI, but it's not like Instagram's putting like an overlay in like the top left or right. It's
Right.
like AI. Like you
It'd be
would
nice if
have,
there was a checkbox, honestly.
there might be, I'm not positive. I have to check. I'm not on
Yeah,
the IG very much, but as you're scrolling, it's not like you're ever reading the description, right? You're literally just going so fast through that stuff that
sure.
no one would ever know basically. So
I mean, I watched a playful cat video on YouTube. Maybe it was all AI. I don't think so. These cats were crazy.
the world may never know, Frank. All right, dongles. Um, oh, we were talking about the docks a while ago for the Mac Minis, and I'm convinced. Well, I got some questions here and there about like, hey, listen, I really want to get a Mac Mini, but I really don't want to pay that huge Apple tax for that hard drive upgrade. I'm just going to get either a dongle with like a SSD, attachment, or I'm going to get this dock in which you could put in a MME or whatever thing, the fast, the MMCE,
Sure.
the stick.
No, you're actually out of my league. I have no idea what you're talking about. But
It's the stick. It's the
yeah,
stick solid state. There's
NVMe.
MVME,
Okay, great.
NVNOs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I thought about it, and I basically don't like any of these docks. I think
Mhm.
this Satechi one is maybe the closest one that I think looks good. But then they got a bunch of like writing on the front, like they're different color. Like I mean, they're all the same color, but like different. The inputs are different colors. I don't know. Like what Apple did is like, here are some ports. You figure it out, and and then it's like, is it USB-C? Is it Thunderbolt? Who
you wanted
knows?
ports? Here's 800 of the same port. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, and I think it's nice, but then all these ports are on the front. I'm like, I don't know if I like that necessarily. But it doesn't seem like anyone's taking advantage of Thunderbolt 5 to get like the same exact speed out of it. Now, I'm not saying that I need the same exact speed that's in the hard drive of my Mac Mini, but I'm saying it's not a one-to-one comparison. You know what I mean? Like to actually get the one-to-one comparison, you would need like a Thunderbolt 5 and something that can go that fast to get that one-to-one comparison that's out there, which is fine if you want to save some money. I have nothing against it, right? I think that that's a good alternative. And I've even been thinking about it, like, oh, should I like offload? Like, should I put my OneDrive, right, that I don't access that often, over and like put another drive
Sure.
or whatever? And then I'm like, I don't know. Now I got 2 terabytes. Who cares?
Not
So
right now. Yeah.
dongle train, I think, is fine. Dock train is fine. I don't think it's a one-to-one, but I do think that it is totally fine to go that route. But I don't think like 256 gig or even a half a terabyte is like enough though. Yeah, I just don't think it's enough.
Uh, No, I'm okay. Well, okay. My general philosophy is we're all goldfish. So whatever size of pond we're in, we're just going to grow to that size. So
Yeah.
there's no enough. Give me 20 terabytes and I'll fill it in a year or two. No problem. I got this. But as for living with the external drives and all that stuff, I did that with my previous computer. It's half the reason I actually wanted to upgrade was so that I could not live that life. So for me, that's still a last resort. So hopefully in a few years, we go down that kind of path of even caring about external storage and things like that.
Yeah, because you read, I'm going to go into the Mac Mini, right? Because the default is 256. I'm just going to double confirm over here. I don't want to like,
I don't even want to
James.
look at how much I'm using because it's so nice to not care. But like, it's probably an obnoxious amount. I keep downloading AI models, speaking of AI, and who knows where they're stored. It caches them. And there's probably 800 models on this computer now.
Yeah, I've very lightly used this machine, Frank. Like I do have like Olama and I have some models and things like that, right? So I think of this machine as developer machine, right? I think 256 for like average, it's still not enough. 512 maybe better. You know what I mean? Like it just not enough. And I know this because on my Project Volterra, I think I have 512, and it's just not enough, right? And like, I feel like for development stuff, like all your NuGet caches, like all your models, like
My good
I
lord.
look at applications, I have 72 gigs, and I know like there's stuff for VMware and all this other stuff, but I'm using
But Steam.
300 gigs, Frank, 300 gigs.
Oh, 300 gigs. Can I do this math? Apple counts terabytes and gigabytes, oddly, but I have 3.35 terabytes available. So ostensibly, I've used 0.65 terabytes.
Yeah, so
So 650
650.
gigabytes.
Yeah.
Um, it's surprising how fast you can go through memory. It's absurd. Uh, that's all I have to say about that. Well, I mean, it's the packages, right? But I joke it's also like the runtimes and the workloads. At least as a Maui developer, I'm living in this world where iCircuit, an app that's still not on Maui 9, is on Maui 8, even though it's not on Maui yet. And then all my other stuff is on .NET 9.
Yeah.
And so I have double workloads installed, and the workloads have versions, and I'm not 100% convinced they're always cleaning up all their versions. And then on top of that, the Xcodes app has started to work for me. So I have so many versions of Xcode installed at this point. Some with this SDK, so like iOS here or there, Vision SDK here or there. Yeah. Anyway, that's all me to just say. In this year, 2025, wow, it's easy to go through hard drive.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. I mean, I just opened up the app. So it's like, I have Xcode. Every Xcode's 5 gigs plus whatever other stuff they're installing. Android Studio, 3 gig. Each of the Office apps, that's 2 to 3 gigs. Docker, images, VMware, my OneDrive. Like, I mean, these apps are big on disk.
I was laughing today. I used the Copilot extension in Xcode. And just the extension, which, if you think about it, all it's doing is intercepting editor commands, making web requests, and inserting some text. And somehow that thing is 170 megabytes. And I'm just like, what is it doing? Or what's in there?
Well, my favorite part is I open up the settings app, went into general, went into storage. And as we're recording this podcast, the fun part is that Zencaster is actively like recording this video stream and audio to disk. So I'm literally watching my hard drive slow. I mean, it's tiny, right? But it's really funny to like watch it.
But you can see it. The pixels are moving.
The pixels are moving and like little numbers are moving. And we might reach, I'm at 299.11 gigabytes. I wonder if we'll hit 300 gigs like per fraction. Now that to be said, I do think that the dongle life of putting in an attached SSD or one of those, solid state, hard drives with the thing to put on to say, hey, store all my containers here, store all my models here, store all of my VM images here. That's probably a good use for it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And actually, that's how I used it before. I had all my VMware Fusion images on there, which sadly I can't run anymore because they're all Intel images. And so I think I actually do need to buy a new external drive because I kind of love that separation. Like it really makes them feel like virtual machines if they're actually on a separate drive too, right? You're like, oh, I can just take this to any machine and just run that puppy. And maybe it works, maybe it not. Sometimes Fusion complains, but whatever. In principle, I can move it from computer to computer. I like that separation. Right now, I overspent on this computer, so I don't even have to bother with that. But I do like that. I like putting the Docker containers. My goodness, those add up fast. Boy, you need to just download a few dev containers, and all of a sudden, there goes the gigabytes. And then, the models.
Well, I know I was downloading. I had Olama and I was playing around so we're hopping from dongles to AI here, back and forth. By the way, if you haven't told, dongles and AI.
Dongle AI.
Dongle AI.
When will the AI be a dongle? Like the AI should just be a USB-C stick that I stick into my computer, which is just 70 billion parameters, and it's just a serial port emulator, and you just feed it commands and it just responds to you. I want the AI dongle.
Well, I had a, where is it? I had a USB stick. I was playing around with it. I was doing some cleaning out of my cloth, of like my drawer, and I found this DevDiv. Is a DevDiv, old school,
What
any
if
developer, any app, any platform, and you kind of, if you're on YouTube, you kind of like, they gave us to this with something where you kind of like, there, you pop it out and like that. So this whole thing is not useful. It's just that. Is it? Okay.
if you're just listening to the podcast, James has taken what looks like a business card and popped out a USB port on it, and
Yeah.
that's awesome. A USB-A port.
And that is
pretty hot.
128 gigs on there. And I was like, that's one of the biggest. I have this other one, which is a mini Sega Genesis that I got at like E3 a long time ago, which is kind of cool. So I can get that. That's pretty cool. That one's really tiny though. But, and I was thinking you could put a
fetish item.
You could put a model on here and then you stick it in. Then boom. Yeah. I was like, I bet Hanselman's done that. Okay,
well,
so
we need the processor and the GPU and all that stuff. But yeah.
Well, I was playing around with .NET Aspire and the Ollama .NET Aspire Community Toolkit integration for Ollama.
Integration. Okay.
And it's really
I was wondering
neat.
what you were going to call it.
Yes, integration. And you download a NuGet package into your project, into your app host, and then you can say Ollama, and then you give it a name. So maybe I say model or whatever, my model. And then you say, what model do you want? So you could say Phi 3.5. And then when you hit debug, it literally opens it on an Aspire dashboard. And as long as you need, Ollama installed on your machine, it will basically install. Well, actually, no, maybe you don't. It installs like the Ollama, like NuGet or the container image, and then like it'll download the Phi 3 container image and then run it inside there. I think that's maybe how it works. I forget. I don't know. Magic. Yeah, I think that's what it must do. Or maybe you do need Ollama on your machine. I don't know how it works. But anyways, magic. So, but it like downloads it, and like that's 7 gigs right there. You know what I mean? Like it's just.
Oh yeah. Not? So yeah, I just want to interrupt you / add a comment that like we should talk about that more. I want to try that out. So I'm going to try that out, and then we'll report back because that sounds interesting. I haven't tried that deployment model before, and now that I know I actually have some terabytes to throw away, let's get some Docker images hosting some AI models. Yeah, that sounds like a great use of bytes and bits.
So I tried it out, and like Galloway and I, we have an upcoming keynote at VS Live Las Vegas next month, and I'm trying to, kind of tell a story about AI and models and the integrations and the developer experience, right? And how it doesn't have to be as complicated as like you may think. So we tell a story of first using the Azure OpenAI integration, so you can call out to a model either on GitHub Models or on Azure AI Foundry, and talk to GPT-4o, for example, and build a little chatbot. And then what we do is we say, okay, and that uses the Microsoft Extensions AI integrations, which gives you like an iChat client, for example, so that you're coding against the chat client in here. And like that's nice because the Aspire integration basically is like 2 lines of code to say, here's my Azure instance and the model, and then go get it for me on the client, the Blazor app, right? And then we say, okay, like, but what if you're a local dev? Like you want to start building your application, but you don't want to be wasting your precious tokens. You know what I mean? Just like throwing away terabytes in tokens like Frank Krueger.
Okay. I mean, I have to admit, like my ideas have been pretty small. I'm trying to make my ideas bigger where I'm trying to use more tokens. But man, I was doing like a day of dev where like I'm like, oh god, this is going to be costing me a fortune. You know,
Yeah.
I've been running the debug loop in like a hot reload environment, just doing all the API calls, and then I log into the API console and they're like, you owe us $0.04, and I'm like, oh, cool.
Nice. Yeah.
But I know like I'm small time. Like I need to be feeding these things the gigabytes and spending the gigadollars on them.
Do you?
But yeah. No, I run the open source ones
Oh, there you
for
go.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I have a 3090 ready to make heat. It's wintertime. It heats the room and solves AI puzzles at the same time.
Problem solved. Boom. Anyway, so what we do is we show you how to like rip out the Azure OpenAI and then just put in the Olama integration, and like you don't have to change any code. Boom, bingo, bango, right? And the Aspire dashboard, I think it shows you all the tokens and all the stuff like that as well that you're using, no matter the integration. So, anyways, that's kind of the stuff that I was talking about, is like kind of stepping through this process. That's pretty neat to see it kind of come together. But like you said, that allows you to waste your precious pennies and also your precious terabytes if you want to, Frank Krueger, on your local machine.
Well, I do, because I do like running the local models, and so I think like a local model that's a little NVMe drive with a USB-C port with all the disgusting Python packages configured into a Docker container, Docker pre-installed on it with the Docker image. All it has to do is execute off of that drive. Yeah, great Trojan horse. We can put this on lots of little things. This sounds great. Let's do it.
It'd be cool. Now, well, back to the dongle game. Well, that would require, Frank, you to actually get a USB dongle that actually works with your machine properly. Now,
okay,
if listeners remember, Frank Krueger on his old MacBook Air Pro, whatever he had a dongle, and he always would have issues. You wouldn't know because we would fix it by the time he came here, but it'd take 18 minutes for Frank to get his dongle to work. It would never work. And then Frank gets a new $8,000 Mac Mini. And what does he do? He uses the same gosh darn dongle to take one poor little USB-C input and turns it into 18 ports. Dang it. And he's like, oh, this is going to work great with phantom power and all this other stuff. Turns out all these problems. There's all this stuff. But Frank, just get a different dongle. How many dongles do you need?
Okay.
Is it a power dongle? Well, what is this dongle?
You've convinced me what I need is to not dongle, James.
Don't dongle.
I got to go dongle free. What I need is actually the correct cable, turns out.
Yeah.
It's just a passive device. I don't know why USB-C is backwards compatible back to USB 2, maybe 1. Who knows? Who knows the USB spec? Are you also depressed like me when you plug in like a new video camera and it's USB 2? You're like, why is it USB 2? And you're like, well, actually, it has plenty of bandwidth for what you're doing. It doesn't need to be USB 3, but you're still like, sad. But even these fancy, what did you call it? Thunderbolt 5? What are we up to? Are backwards compatible with USB 2. So what I need is a USB-C to what I like to call chonky USB, which is USB-B.
USB-B.
To connect to the microphone, which just seems like a sacrilege. Like it's one of those one-off cables. I have still boxes and drawers and other boxes full of cables, but this will be a one-of-a-kind. This is a one-off. But I think in discussing like your perfect desk, you with your gorgeous desk, you need the correctly sized cables, and now you've convinced me you need, turns out, the correct cables.
You oddly do need the correct cables and less dongles. I will say, like, I am on a USB-C journey, and I think that this was the starting point there's two starting points. One where you're like, oh, they clearly make a USB-B to USB-C cable. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I was like, oh yeah, of course they do. Why wouldn't they? And then also when Heather and I, when we were on a trip recently, she has all USB-C cables and I have all USB-A cables, which I think is also okay because nothing else in the world like makes sense. Like I'll bring the Lightning to USB and I'll bring the, like a watch adapter to USB-A and you'll bring the USB-C. But I just got her a new international adapter, and that one has out of it 3 USB-Cs and 2 USB-As. And I was like, I think that's perfect. So you can charge all the devices no matter what you have. And I was like, that's genius. Thanks, Asus.
Well, I have a solar panel that's roughly the size of my iPad and my MacBook Air. And though it's wintertime and I cannot perform the science test, when the sun decides to grace us with its presence again, I'm very curious to see how long it would take to charge my laptop with a northwestern sun off of a solar panel. Just out of the absurdity of, isn't it fun how everything can charge everything now?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. It takes I would say like a full day of sunlight will charge my phone completely.
Oh.
But I think that's going to be like, what, 10% for a laptop?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. But
anyway,
that's better than nothing.
I just love this world where, like, hey man, so instead of bringing adapters, I'm just going to pull energy from the sun. That's my solution. Forget like what country I'm in. I don't need their wall power adapter. I'm just going to bring the solar panel and wait a day to get 10%.
So we were just in the Calgary airport, and in the Calgary airport, they have these bikes that you can ride, and you can plug your device in and charge your device by cycling. I was like, I need this in my life. I was like, wow. I was like, I know it's going to be like, it's almost probably like depressing because it'll be charging so slow, right? You know what I mean? Like the amount that's there. But sure. I was like, this is genius. Like, I love it. I want this in my house.
I went camping one time and we had a fire burning stove, and somehow from the wood burning, it created USB power. And by burning wood, you could create electricity. And we did this. And we had to put an obnoxious amount of wood into this thing in order to get a 10% charge on our phones. It's funny when you convert wood to iPhone electricity.
But at least you were warm while you were doing it.
It was like a jet engine. It was burning so hot. I think it was driving a turbine. Like, I don't know how else you get power from fire without a turbine, but whatever. Magic, maybe piezo magic, who knows.
Magic.
We're off topic from AI and dongles, so yeah, you convinced me, but maybe I could just get an AI that turns my USB port on and off again every time I start Zencaster. That could work too.
Automator? Was it? You like?
I think Apple removed them all. Now it's all shortcuts.
Oh,
remember AppleScript?
I do. Yeah. No, it's still there. I bet.
Automator is still there. Very few apps take advantage of it anymore. I think a few Xamarin scripts still use Automator. So
Automator.
Who knows?
Wow. Well,
so are you are you satisfied? So do you think probability, because this is all your problem. I like it when you can't hear me through the microphone, but I guess it's part of our job that you can hear me. So what percent chance do you give this? Do you really blame my USB-A hub for all my woes?
Yeah. So for years, dear listeners, this is always a great debate between Frank and James. Who done it? Was it Chrome? Is it Zencaster? Is it the dongle? Is it the thing? Is it me? We literally go, is it you? Is it me? Is it But here's the thing. Frank and I literally have the same equipment. It's like, it's the same exact Mac Mini, the same exact audio interface, the same exact cables. There's only one difference, Frank. Someone's going through a dongle.
Merge conflict. We need the dongle to merge. It's a Y Combinator.
There you go. All right. Well, that's a show. How do you feel about that?
That's a show. It's dongle time. Yeah. I think the update is it's just not over. The dongles just aren't over.
No, you got a dongle. I mean, I have it. So I did get a dongle, by the way, and this is full circle here. because this is when I started recording. So I'm like, I'm going to tell you about my dongles. And I was like, I'll just hit the record button. We'll tell everyone about our dongles. So I did get a different dongle where I have one USB-C out, and it's 1 to 2 USB-Cs and 2 USB-As, because I had originally gotten one that was a USB-C to 4 USB-As. And then I thought to myself, why am I post dating, right? Like I'm literally like, it's easy to convert any USB-A to USB-C, right? You just get a dongle to a dongle. But if I really needed to, but then I was thinking to myself, I was like, why would I get something where I know almost all the new devices I'm going to get are going to be USB-C? So why am I going to give up a precious USB-C port on the back of my device? So at least I get 1 to 2 ratio. So instead of 1 to 0. So I think that was a little bit better. And it is crazy because actually what's in that right now, this is where I think what you just said is kind of crazy, is I don't understand. I mean, I know that this is phantom power, so it has to provide power to the microphone, but I literally am piping 1080p video through an Elgato capture card through my dongle. And it's not the only thing in there. It's like a few other devices too. So it's kind of mind boggling that it like has so many issues. That dongle. I blame that dongle specifically.
Isn't it funny, the different standards in USB? And I blame it on basically the chipsets. It always comes down to the actual chip talking USB.
Yeah.
Because I bought the most random video camera off of the internet that you possibly can. And it's been rock solid reliable. Every time, never have to select it. Every app brings it up, everything. Video works perfectly. In general, I've noticed that with video. So this thing with audio, weird. It's just different chips, different something. But yeah, like video is so much higher bandwidth than audio. Yeah. So why is the video so much more reliable? It's weird.
And it's kind of bananas too, because like you try to look at all these dongles. Here's the problem with dongles. It is the chipset, because each USB, like some dongles would be like, oh, it's 10 gigabytes. And the other one's like, oh, these are 5 gigabytes. But then but then some of them are powered, and some need other power. And then some need like 15 power in and then give you 85 out. But then other need like, it's like, you have to like be a mathematician to like do the quantum computing, because then I also have these other ones. Also, it's not just dongles, it's also the little power bricks. It'll be like, oh, here's 1 to 3, and it's like, oh, well, if you use the first one and the third one together, then you can get 80. But if you use the second and the first one, you can only get 50. But if you use the first one by itself, it's up to 100. I'm like, wait, what is, if I use all 3 of them, you get no power, or something? You know what I mean? Like, what? I don't how am I going to ever remember this? It's impossible. Anyways, the dongle game, the wall wart game, it's all madness. That's all I'm saying.
There you have it. Well, just on a ending note, I thought since this is Merge Conflict, I released an app. I just have to say.
What? Wow, congratulations. Why don't we talk about that today?
It's fine. Well, it's just a small app that is going to be useful to 8,000 people on the entire planet.
Probably Pro fewer. Users.
Yeah, exactly. It's just for Mac Mini users. I'm just kidding. It's just a silly app. We kind of talked about it before. It's for the ferry system here in the beautiful state of Washington.
Yeah, cool.
I wanted to have my own ferry app. It's actually a free app. It's called Ferry Amigo. Go get it. It's free. It only applies to you if you happen to live on the Salish Sea.
Nice, that's awesome.
If you do live on the Salish Sea, wow, can't even say it. Go get my app. It's free. Why not? It's fun. It's a small download.
I'm gonna download. Is that for iOS?
Yeah, it's only for iOS. I apologize, everyone. I'm not a good Android developer. So Ferry Amigo. That's it. Not much to say. It's a very simple app. There's not too much from a programming perspective to say about it, or then it does a lot of web requests and renders the data out. And I think in a fun way.
What a cool icon.
One thing I really, cool icon. Speaking of AIs, it's an AI icon.
Beautiful.
Don't mention that to anyone.
Amazing.
One thing that I actually do enjoy about it that we might talk about on an episode was I did all the activity management we talked about it before, but like it has lock screen and the pervasive activity up on the island, up on the iPhone. So it was fun using some of those new modern APIs for basically a very simple app that's free. Go
So
get it.
cool.
Fairy Amigo.
Wow. Amazing. That is awesome. Congratulations, my friend. It's always an exciting time on an app launch. And yeah, I totally downloaded it and I can see stuff now.
And
Totally
can I
rad.
say, no rejections. 0.
Wow.
Not one during test flight, not one during review. I think it's that simple of an app.
Wow. I'm going to maybe I'll send it to some Microsofty distribution groups. There's got to be people that would use this, I'm sure. That was very cool,
I'm
man.
sure there's a few Microsofties living on the Salish Sea.
Wow. So cool. Wow. Congratulations. That's rad. Next step, monetization. So cool. Well, we'll talk about that next week because I'm interested in how you built it and you did all this stuff. So tune in next week when we talk about Swift UI development, I assume.
Yeah, it was. You got it.
It's 2.5 megabytes, so I know it's definitely written. I was either written in.
Oh, you saw the size? You clever developer, you.
That's the first thing I looked at. It's who says you can't build small apps? It's like you either wrote it in C++ or
right
or in Swift UI.
I haven't done that in 15 years, thank goodness.
Yeah, or it's assembly code. Let's just be honest. All right, I wrote it in.
Well, one of these days I will have Frank Lang. I'll just write it in my own language. So we're not quite there yet.
I like it. Well, we'll talk about that next week because all the activity stuff looks super cool. I'm going to check that out. All right, that's going to do for this week's Merge Conflict. Tell us about your dongles that you got for your Mac and if they work or not. Go to mergeconflict.fm or more likely just go to youtube.com/@mergeconflictfm. That's where you find us, our beautiful faces, and you can see that cool USB dongle that we had and download Frank's app, Fairy Amigo. That's going to do for this week's podcast. So until next time, James, what do I know?
And I'm Frank Kruger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.